Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 49 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in Los Angeles, California. Join my best buddy in the whole world in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing wonderful. I have a mug today, Ray. It is, for those of you at home, I'll describe it. It's a Minion mug from the hit movie Despicable Me 1, Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me 3, Minions, and soon to be Minions: The Rise of Gru. But he has this kind of look on his face of what is going on in the world. And, I don't know why that's the mug I chose today, but it just kind of makes sense. But I'm doing well. I'm actually doing well. Keeping our head above water here. I have had to become a part-time teacher during the day, which has been an interesting experience, to say the least. And I am so blessed and fortunate that we have this podcast and the other things that we do to take our minds off the virus that will not be named.
Yes.
Because the virus has no name.
The virus has no name.
The virus has no name. No, doing good, man. Like I said, we're all kind of surviving right now, and it's been somewhat nice weather out here. I get to go to walks a few times a day. But let me throw it back to you, Ray Carcillo in Los Angeles. Ray Carcillo, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm all right, dude. We are in a safer at home lockdown here in LA. It's not really a lockdown. We're allowed to go outside for walks and stuff, but many more businesses are closed.
It's a stay at home. Yes.
But I mean, I'm doing well. Like I've said this before, I was built for quarantine, man. Like I can sit in one place for many hours at a time and just play video games. Yes. And that's what I've been doing. I mean, thankfully the new Doom just came out, Doom Eternal. So I've been working my way through that, about a quarter of the way through that. Animal Crossing came out, not my jam, but I saw the internet explode over it. So it seems to be a lot of folks out there very happy with the Switch. Also been streaming every day. Been streaming my MLB The Show New York Yankee franchise on the Twitch channel. So if you haven't been, if you guys are desperate for baseball, desperate for sports, go to twitch.tv/Ray Carcillo and you can watch me play baseball with the Yankees. Or every Wednesday, maybe starting back up, we did it once. Maybe we'll do it again this Wednesday. Wednesday Night Hockey, which is something that we used to do for a while there with We Live Hockey in its original form called Hockey Achievements.
That's right. So. And so you guys know out there, Phillies are on a tear in his digital season, but I believe the Yankees are undefeated, or have you lost the game?
We're 12-0 now. We've had 3 games go. We've had 3 games go to extra innings, but the Yankees were able to pull it out. Our bullpen thus far has given up 1 run the entire season. So. That's because I'm a much better manager than Aaron Boone. I actually know how to run a bullpen.
Let me ask you this, Ray. When you can play online in that game too, right?
Yes.
So is that, most people prefer the online play. Is that a game where playing the computer is actually better than playing someone online because of the nature of baseball?
I think it is. Yeah. Personally, I don't know. I like football or hockey, I don't mind playing against other people online. But with baseball, I don't know, especially because there's such a it's such a longer game if you play a full 9-inning game with baseball.
Yeah.
Madden's pretty long too, but like hockey, you can be done in 20 minutes. Baseball, MLB The Show, it takes like a full 45 to 50 minutes a game. So, if you're going to play somebody online, you're probably only going to play like one person a day. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing I was asking, because it's like I've noticed almost all the other games you play online, except for baseball. But I can understand why because of the nature of baseball being what I say in quotations here, a perfect sport, meaning that there's a right outcome for almost every play. It would make sense that the computer would actually be pretty challenging because it knows the correct outcome. And if anything, the CPU actually has to create inconsistencies for that to be more realistic.
Yes.
Right? Which is interesting, and normal people just don't know what they're doing. I'd also like to make a side. Go ahead.
It is the thing. It is interesting to play and see, and yes, there are little bugs, quote unquote, that were there. You can tell almost placed on purpose that you can take advantage of.
Sure.
And of course, the higher the difficulty level, the more they eliminate those, right? I play on the veteran difficulty level, not the legendary difficulty level, but still a pretty solid challenge.
Yeah.
And it's but yeah, I mean it's also just how I want to enjoy the game, right? Like I spent my money, I want to play.
Totally understand. I just thought that might be interesting for people to hear at home, because like I've noticed you've been playing the computer and there's a reason for that. Whereas in like NHL, the computer is very frustrating to play against. and then you have to
Yeah,
listen
I mean,
to
it's
Snoop
very-
Dogg
it's-
between periods. So
It's
yeah,
very easy to
Yeah.
beat the computer. I mean, I regularly in NHL. Like, that's the thing. Even in MLB, like I said, there's been a couple of games where I've blown them away. But I've had two 2-1 games that I've won in extra innings, a 7-6 game. Whereas in NHL, it's frequently could win 7-0 or 8-0 on a regular basis.
To be fair, like to the people that make these games, giving an AI to ice hockey is totally different than baseball. It's much harder. I mean, to be fair,
a lot more variables on a second to second basis.
Yeah, and there was a time that the NHL EA makers of the game were actually advancing that. Not recently, but there was a time where it was getting really, really good. But yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack there, everybody, but that was an interesting question. I do want to tell everybody at home that is listening to this and not watching it, I am wearing an old man sweater today that my children got me. If you, it's tough to describe, but it's blue and gray. It is very much something a man would be smoking a cigar on a leather couch with while reading a book and sipping on a martini. But I'm wearing it for the show today because my children gave it to me, and I love my children. And the older I get, the less I care, right? So it just kind of worked out. I'm wearing a baseball cap too, so this makes no sense whatsoever. All right, but that's your little nugget for the day. We actually have a pretty good show today. There's a lot going on in the geek world and actually in the NFL world too to talk about because we all need the distraction. And like I said, Ray and I are recording on Sundays now because as I said, I have children at home, so recording during the week becomes very up in the air of when we may or may not be able to do it. So just to confirm, the date is Sunday, March 22nd, 2020. I will do that the entire year. This is being brought to you by our sponsor this week, no one.
Nobody. I was drinking a Jack in the Box iced
coffee. Jack in the Box iced coffee. Cool yourself off while you cool off the Corona beers in your fridge. A virus has no name.
A virus has no name. I actually do have Corona beers in the fridge right now. But
yeah, someone has to. They got to be out there somewhere, right?
Yeah. But we were talking about digital video games, video game sports, and actually it leads us into our first topic, which I think will be pretty fascinating for folks. NASCAR today did the race digitally with all the drivers in their actual cars as an esport, and actually had the Fox Sports commentators on it, and you're starting to see this more often with a lot of these events where, I mean, even we've seen it with some hockey players who have been doing their simulations and playing with fans and whatnot, but this was the actual race that would have been today with all the drivers online at once, which was a fascinating way to put on the event, even though it won't be officially into the standings or anything like that.
Well, it's a huge moment for esports because it's a stepping over. And I think what's happening is we're getting deep enough into the situation now where we're starting to see innovations, if you will, among different industries. Different things are going to change. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the show, especially with movie theaters. But I know Dale Earnhardt Jr. got in on this. He was retired, and then Denny Hamlin actually beat him on the last lap today. So it was actually an exciting. If you're a NASCAR fan, it was an exciting race. Someone won it on the last lap. But look, hey, props to NASCAR for thinking outside the box and finding a way to do this. I mean, let's be fair to the drivers. We tease them about making left turns and everything that goes into NASCAR, but today they legit were just making left turns. I mean, it probably wasn't hard to figure that out. Minus the cars and everything like that. But like seriously, I give them a lot of credit for thinking outside the box, keeping their fans engaged. I mean, every sport's finding a different way to do that. I think it is a testament for how far gaming has now gone. Keeping in mind that almost every one of these drivers nowadays has played games, grew up on games. So it's like, we're kind of getting out of that old athlete mentality. And then again, we're going to talk about it in a bit. I mean, the only league right now that doesn't need anything is the NFL because their hot stove is going like crazy, which obviously we're going to talk about at some point today. But hey, props to NASCAR for taking a step forward. I think it's good for gaming. It's good for geeks. Probably got a really good following. And the NASCAR game is actually one where we talk about realism. Like you probably, unless you really look for it, you probably can't tell the difference between an actual race and a NASCAR iRacing event, outside the obvious camera cuts, and you know what I'm trying to say. But you could enjoy. I honestly think I could enjoy, if I was a huge NASCAR fan, I could probably enjoy a digital race.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
So NASCAR fans out there, feel free to shout me out if you're like, it wasn't realistic at all, man. The pit crews they looked fake. right?
I mean, that is a problem. I mean, like even with MLB The Show, right, where it. I've commented this on the stream a couple of times, where the players look so amazingly realistic, but then they cut to a shot of the crowd, and they look like The Walking Dead, and it's kind of like, what? Don't put that shot in the game. Don't even bother.
They're just sitting there. They're just doing one of those like, it's just doing random, non-player type character stuff. Like, here's a hot dog. Yum.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a Yankees game. Where's the people fighting and shouting, F you, Orioles, you suck? Like, where's that stuff? Is that not in the game?
I mean, unfortunately, they couldn't call me in this year to do that that soundtrack like usual. No, I mean, by the way, MLB The Show, your San Diego's not a far drive. I am more than happy to come down and impersonate.
No, you can't do that now. You're not allowed out of the house, Ray. You just sit there in your little corner.
We
of
can
Los
do
Angeles.
it remotely. I have a microphone. I have a booth.
That's fair too.
We can record it remotely.
That's fair. I would love that. What did you do during the pandemic? I recorded Yankees voiceovers for MLB The Show 22.
Yes.
They're extra realistic. What'd you say? I can't see them on camera.
I can't repeat that on air.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and honestly, it'd also be interesting because next year, supposedly, we've talked about this before in the show, next year, supposedly, the show will be on all systems.
Yeah.
That Sony's going to finally let it go to other third parties.
I'm looking forward to that because I'd like to play some baseball again.
Yes, we desperately need a good baseball game. RBI baseball just doesn't cut it.
No, you can tell it doesn't even from the previews.
Yeah, but we won't get too much into that here.
So that was a geek and sports topic. So now this is a choose your own adventure show, Ray. I'm going to let you decide the direction we go here. Okay, geekdom or sports? It's up to you.
I mean,
let's tease the crowd. Let's tease the crowd.
Okay.
Which direction we going first off? Geek or sport?
Okay, I think we're gonna go geek.
Okay. All right. You've made a left turn. You've hit the first door. Do you open the door? Because behind door number A is whatever you're going to say, and we're going to talk about it.
Well, so because we've been talking about video games, I think this is a perfect way to transition into the big news from video games this week. Besides Doom and Animal Crossing coming out, was we finally have the PS5 specs. They'll put up against the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X specs.
Xbox X.
The Xbox X. The Xbox X versus the PlayStation 5.
You idiots.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Aside from it being a terrible presentation with video game Dana Carvey, a.k.a. Mark Cerny, if you ever seen Mark Cerny, he looks very much like Dana Carvey, and a lot of people were tweeting that during the conference, the digital conference. Mark Cerny, of course, who was the architect of the PS4, also chief architect of the PS5. It was a very technical presentation, which, again, this was originally intended for Game Developers Conference, which is more of a technical show. So you kind of wonder why Sony didn't, better suit that for the wide YouTube audience they were going to do that to now. But once you get into the nitty-gritty, it's clear the Xbox X, it's a worse name than the PlayStation 5, but it's a better system than the PlayStation 5.
Yes.
It's got more power. It's got more speed. Both will have solid-state drives. Xbox seems to have better backwards compatibility. Sony has said there's some limitations to the PS5's backwards compatibility.
Interesting.
Also, to much people's chagrin, Sony has basically said that when the PS5 comes out, there will be PS5 only games. Whereas Microsoft has said there will be games that will play both on your Xbox One and on your Xbox X. So this way you don't have to necessarily we're going to call it that the rest of the show, at least the rest of the show.
It catches me by surprise every time, and I don't know
why. And what'll end up happening is they kind of have a more gradual transition into the next console generation, which is an interesting choice, especially if the virus that shall not be named causes any delays in production. Because right now, this is about the time when a lot of systems would start to do the putting together of the systems to be sold in November. So we will see. But yes, I don't know where you fall on the argument, folks. Let us know below. Are you a PlayStation guy, an Xbox guy?
Or both. That's the thing too. Is a lot of people do both now. I've always wondered, is that conversation even still a thing? I mean, it was very much 10 years ago, But like, I mean, do people jump ship here now? Is there that loyalty anymore? Like, do you go with the better system? Do you go with what you know? I'm sure there's a little bit of both ways on that. So yeah, make sure you let us know about that. I mean, are you a Switch person too? Like, we can't forget about them, about Nintendo in this entire thing. So I know when these companies compete, the consumer wins, and gamers are very much winning right now with all of this. So it'll be very interesting come the launch time period for that. Ray, I'm going to pivot here real quick to a topic we did not talk about off air, if that's okay. But I realize we should talk about on the show today. We're talking about Xbox, and I believe you said this Xbox and PlayStation will be the last disc-ready model, correct?
That is what everybody in the industry believes, that this should be the last one with this disc drives. Yes.
So I would agree with that. And now, what's happening right now, we have to talk quickly about GameStop. All right. Now I know gamers in the world are split on whether they love or hate GameStop. But GameStop, I know. No, I thought you'd be on that side of it. It's an either I don't care thing. I don't have any stake in that fight. But this is why I'm bringing it up. And so follow me here at home, right? So GameStop openly defied the orders of several states, saying that they are an essential business to stay open, which I'm not going to lie is very rebellious and weird, because they're clearly not. They're clearly not.
It did come down today that they are going, after the public backlash, they are going to comply. Today, they announced they will comply.
Well, I think they knew that was going to happen, number one. Yeah. All right. I think that was a horrible PR move, although there's no such thing as bad PR. All right. But here's the thing. GameStop was probably already on its last leg prior to this. So you might see now the complete death of going to get games at a shop. Outside, like you said, Best Buy's in this boat too in a lot of ways, and every other electronics store. This time period might legit kill off that. People are going to figure out how to get games now without going out to get them. Or, there's Amazon, there's other ways to get them digitally, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, like, people are going to be downloading games now. One of the things that happens during a time period like this, and we saw this in 08, 09 during the recession, was that people learn how to go on the computers now. All right? And, like, one of the things that happened when the last recession kind of lifted a bit was all the businesses opened up, and a lot of industries died because consumers had figured out a better way to kind of move forward, right? So I think this is an even bigger case of that because we're being forced to stay home. But, like, here's the thing. My 79-year-old father is using Peapod now to get his groceries delivered. He's never done that before, right? Yeah. So, like, you're going to have a very tech-savvy generation, or I guess not even generation. People are going to be a lot more tech-savvy. You're going to have a lot more people coming online, all right? I think that not only does this fortify the discs will be gone, right, but it's an opportunity for Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo to really jump on, like, we're not going to be pushing these discs out anymore. First off, it's a lot cheaper for them not to do that. All right. But, like, is this going to cause a technological push forward for gaming, number one? Will GameStop go under because of this? These are my questions for you, Ray. And, like, and what does the world look like without any gaming stores? Again, love or hate them, all right? Because they've really diversified their stores over the last 10 years to be really more than just games, obviously. And again, they're still trying to stay alive. I always saw them as a pretty cool geek store. It's fun to go in there. No offense.
Yeah.
But I don't see them surviving this.
It's a good atmosphere for sure.
Yeah, I don't see them surviving this though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think at least with, like, places like Walmart or Target or even Best Buy, I think that's why they've diversified. They have so much else to offer. Even Best Buy, you still want to buy a TV in person. You still want to buy appliances. So even when the DVD, Blu-ray, video game, physical market completely dries up, I think you'll see that section of the store go away, but it'll be taken over by laptops and iPhones and other things that they already sell. For GameStop, however, since that is their bread and butter, that is the core. Yes, they have game-related merchandise, action figures, stuffed animals,
it's in the name,
t-shirts.
Right? It's in the name of the store, yeah.
Right. It's the fact of the matter is that the bulk of their stuff is video games, and particularly used video games, where they make 100% of the profit on them.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point.
Like that, the used game market is really what's kept GameStop afloat as long as it has, because they, none of that money they send back to the developers or the publishers, which is why a lot of times the industry has been at odds with GameStop, even though they know they've been a necessary evil, as they would call them.
Yeah, subscription services are also, that's the answer to that, right? Like the game subscription services, that's how the game companies will recoup their money back from used games, if you will, because I'm sure people share those things too. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's why you've had Xbox with games with gold. That's why you've had these subscription services come out, and they've done very well for the company. So they're even cutting into that used market now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, and people don't realize the game industry wanted to get away from discs this generation.
I
they
believe that.
They wanted the Xbox One and the PS4 to not have disc drives.
Maybe they won't now. Maybe they'll redesign it so they don't. I mean, listen, this is an opportunity for them to not do that right now, in my opinion. But again, it comes down to how big that market is and how many people are still doing it, to be fair.
Well, I mean, I think is definitely the market is much smaller than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's also why you saw the Xbox One S, the smaller version. There was a version with it where they didn't have a disc drive. Where if you didn't want it to kind of
testing the market.
Exactly. To kind of put their toe in that water. The only reason why they even capitulated with this generation was there was still too much of a gap there, where especially and I can only really speak to North America, but I imagine this worldwide, more rural areas don't have the internet infrastructure.
That's fair.
Where downloading games is as viable. At least 10 years ago, it's gotten better over time. But that's why I also think that this will be the last generation where they'll do like a half step again, where the base model will come with the disc drive, but then 3 years down the road when they'll do the Xbox X Plus or whatever. That will be without a disc drive, and that will start to kind of shift things away.
And here's the thing:
and with that, GameStop will die.
Yeah, I think they're dead now. I don't think they're coming back from this personally. That's my opinion, unless someone buys them. All right. The other thing too is that when you take the disk drive out of a computer system, essentially, you can get these things really small, really quick. So it's going to be very interesting to see I think that the next gen is going to be totally different from what people are thinking right now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the size of my hand, to be honest with you, or smaller. Now I'm going to transition again real quick. I apologize. This is usually Ray's job, but this is too much of a good segue. But we're talking about GameStop dying, another industry that is in deep stuff. Is the major motion picture market.
Yes.
And this is a geek topic we were going to talk about. So movie theaters are all closed now, and this is very dangerous. First off, they will not survive unless there's a stimulus package from our government to help them survive. The other thing too, and this is what I find interesting and also kind of exciting, not that I want to see like AMC and Regal and all these movie theaters die, but the whatever it was, the patent or whatever the law was that kept movie companies from making theaters has been retired. So if I'm Disney right now or whoever, whatever, Sony, it doesn't matter, whatever you are, I'm thinking, how much would it cost to buy AMC or how much would it cost to buy Regal right now and make our own theaters, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Because here's the thing. I think when this lifts, I think a lot more people now are going to be able to digitally stream, and they're going to figure that out. But I still want to go to the movies. I love going to the movies. It's not something I don't want to do. Yeah, so I'm wondering if Disney and everybody else right now are looking into, even Netflix, right? How can we buy these theaters and streamline the process? Because one of the things that's happening right now, which is pretty unprecedented, and I definitely want to discuss this today because it's exciting, is that because we can't go to the movies, now theaters are making really insane decisions. So, for example, the movie Onward, which launched 2 weeks ago, is already on digital release. We bought it. I haven't seen it yet, but we bought it here.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Sonic the Hedgehog will be out at the end of this month, which is unbelievably quick release. And I remember we were talking before about how Batman in 1989 got from film to VHS in like a year. And that was fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now we're talking weeks. So here's the questions. One, okay, I have 3 questions for you, Ray. Okay, number 1 is this. All right, will we see the death of the movie theater franchise here and it rise up again in a different way? The second question is, are we going to start to see major motion pictures released digitally during this time? Like, are we going to see the release of a major motion picture on my television before theaters? All right, now most companies push their movies back. All right, but like there's some that haven't yet, and I think if I'm Disney, right, not only am I trying to get my Marvel shows out fast now, I'm pushing them up if I'm Disney. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but or is it like, hey, listen, Black Widow is coming. Maybe we should just put it out. I would pay $20 for that. I would pay $20 to have that right now.
No, I agree. I think giving people the option to pay a small fee to get it through Disney Plus or whatever. I think Black Widow. I think a lot of these spring movies, these summer blockbusters, if you will, that were going to come out. I don't see theaters opening back up anytime soon. I think that
And are people even going to go to them when they do? Like, sorry to cut you off. That's the other thing too. Like, I'm not going to feel comfortable sitting in a movie theater full of people right away. Like, so I'm sorry. I should have been clear on this. I'm not just talking Disney Plus because, like, I have Apple TV, right? Like, I bought Onward on my Apple TV, so you're going to get the same amount of money from me as you would have got for a ticket. Right. I'll buy it. I'm not expecting Disney Plus to put Black Widow on there for free or for my subscription fee. I'm expecting them to charge me for it. But I would gladly. But this is that opportunity now to make that transition. Yeah. The question is, I don't know what the numbers are for like people who buy a movie after they see it in a theater. Like, I don't know what that stuff is, but it seems like an opportunity right now to do this. And Onward's out again. Sonic's coming out real soon. From my point of view, like we're all sitting at home right now. It seems like an opportunity. Like, if you put a Marvel movie right now, if you drop that right now, everyone's buying.
Everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to watch it.
So they have to be having that conversation, right?
Oh, I imagine for sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, this is definitely, like you said, this is the perfect time to experiment with something like this. I mean, the thing is, and also, if anybody's going to do it, Disney has the money to risk this, right? Where it's like,
absolutely.
Even if it doesn't do as well as it might have done in theaters, say it only makes, I don't know, $100 million, which is still a ridiculous amount of money. But obviously, for a Marvel movie, that would not be a great number. But like, you know, but it's a chance for them to be like, well, you know, it didn't work. I guess we still need the theater for a little while. You know, like,
sure, but you can still release it in the theater even after. Yeah.
Yes. Or if it makes $1 billion, you realize that this could be a way for them to go forward with a lot of stuff and not just, and also open the doors for a lot of other movies.
Well, I would love to see the numbers, because here's the thing is what I'm thinking about. Again, this is my business mind, right? So like when a movie goes to a theater, they have to pay the theater something, right? Or the theater pays for the movie. I don't know how it works. And like I don't know how the profits come in, like if it's the tickets or the movie theater or what, but I imagine putting it out on your own service will make you more money. Again, I could be completely wrong on this. I'm just saying. But like, here's the thing. Marvel has said, or Disney has said, that they're probably going to push Black Widow back, and this is the key. They said that it will not affect the timeline, right? So what I believe that they're saying is that, like, if you see this after you see Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's not going to matter. All right? That's what I think they mean by that. All right, because it's not like they're going to push it behind another movie. That doesn't make sense. So if I was in Disney's position right now, again, I have to kind of say this first. They don't have to do any of this, and if they decide not to do this, I'm not going to hold it against them. But I would seriously consider, let's get Falcon and the Winter Soldier out right now. All right, like let's get it out right now. It's a good thing to do because people need it. Right.
Well, is it in the can right now? Is it finished? Have they finished filming?
I don't know. I imagine they finished filming because we saw a trailer for it.
I was going to say, I don't think they're finished filming the season, however. I think from what I understand, I believe that
I'm gonna look it up. I'm going to use my interwebs and look this up.
I believe they were in the middle of production. They were in the middle of production, and they had to halt it because of the virus that shall not be named. And that might be one of the things holding it up. But,
I'm gonna look it up. I know something. I know The Witcher season 2 was held up. Right.
Yeah.
I know.
There's been a few things that have been held up because obviously.
Okay. It says today the studio shut this March 10th, shut down production and called everybody home to Atlanta. Disney halts Falcon and the Winter Soldier Prague shoot. So I guess okay. They can't they can't release it if they're not done filming it for sure.
Yeah, they were in the middle of I was gonna say I think they were about halfway. I want to say they were about halfway done filming when they had to halt everything.
Well,
so
you know what? Then just finish The Mandalorian. He can do it.
Yeah,
The Mandalorian is tough, and the coronavirus ain't taking out The Mandalorian. Let's be honest.
Speaking of The Mandalorian,
yeah.
It was announced also today that Rosario Dawson has been cast as Ahsoka. What's her name? I can't think of her name.
Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka. Yeah.
Leave the Star Wars to me, man. Ahsoka Tano.
I don't watch the cartoons. Like I don't watch the cartoons.
It's not excusable. You hold me accountable. I hold you accountable. Nice mug, by the way. He's got a Geeks Who Like Sports mug.
Yes.
He's taking a big
it's true.
We cover each other.
Now, I should especially now watch the cartoons.
So, real quick for those of you who don't watch the cartoons, like Rey, okay, or the animated series, which some of us call us that, Rey. No, so Ahsoka Tano is a very interesting character. Okay, so she is essentially Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. She's a Padawan learner under Anakin. Long story short, and you should still watch this. This is kind of a spoiler, but it's not. she decides to leave the Jedi path when she realizes that it's probably not best for her to be on that path. And she is a reoccurring character, not just in the Clone Wars, but also in Rebels and throughout the timeline. Okay, so there is an amazing scene in Rebels where, again, she is Anakin's Padawan learner prior to Anakin turning into Darth Vader. And they are very, very close. Okay, as close as Obi-Wan and Anakin are. And what ends up happening is she actually, I won't spoil what happens here, but she does confront Darth Vader at one point. Okay. Yeah. And I will tell you that she survives. And I'm only telling you that because, again, that is kind of a spoiler thing, but like we know that now because Rosario Dawson is going to be playing her. So I don't feel like I'm ruining anything.
Because I mean, as I know, because obviously it's a little bit of Vader. Obviously, Vader's humanity still coming through. I think he kind of went easy on her, right?
So what happens is, and again, with again, this is a spoiler now. So if you're gonna watch this, just skip past this part. But yet she is so close to Anakin that when she confronts Vader, she actually pulls Anakin out of him a little bit, and it's a really cool scene. It's very quick what happens, but it shows the power she has within Anakin. And you got to remember too that show takes place in the very early years of Darth Vader, so Anakin is very much still in Vader's head before he's pulled out by Luke later on because he feels the good in him. We will have to have a talk another time about how the Skywalker men are just whiny, horrible people, and the women are the heroes of Star Wars. But that's another time. But so obviously being in The Mandalorian, which takes place after Return of the Jedi, Rosario Dawson is the right age to play Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a great, great character. It will also give a really cool tie-in to Vader if they want it to. And the Force in general, okay? Because she is a Force user, but not a Jedi, and she kind of shuns the Jedi, which is really smart if you know Star Wars, because the Jedi are kind of blind. Yes. All right, you know, it's very much light and dark. So I'm very excited about that, and The Mandalorian season 2. They've done everything right with that so far, and until they don't, I'm going to trust them. But yeah, look, like with that show and other shows, Disney really probably should. I'm saying this. Again, I don't know the money behind it. I would have to see that to really make a definitive thing, but I'd like to see them consider putting out Black Widow if this keeps up, right? I mean, because like I said, when the theaters open again, it's going to be late summer, and like I'm not going right away.
No, for sure.
You know what I mean? Sure. Like, so it's one of those things.
Just to stay with Star Wars for a second longer.
Yes, I love it when we stay with Star Wars.
Yeah. Jon Favreau, obviously in charge of The Mandalorian, also had a lot to do with Rebels and Clone Wars. Yes. So it's just another way of him tying his section of the Star Wars universe either more tightly together. It's also a theme, the shunning of the Jedi ways, that was explored in the video game, Fallen Order, right? Yes, where you had very much, you had Cal and you had his master, because she becomes his master, his new master, I should say.
Kind of, because she's not Force using in the game.
She at the very end she Force uses.
Well, she taps into it, but I'm saying she shuns the Force, like it's a mentor, right?
Right, it's more like a mentorship, but that's the thing. It's you have these two characters have both basically turned themselves off to the Force. One who gets back onto the Jedi path, and officially he's dubbed a Jedi Knight at the end of the game. Spoiler alert. You know, Cal doesn't die at the end of the game. The hero does. The hero doesn't die at the end of the game.
You'll still love the game if you haven't played it yet. You've had enough time to play that game if you're listening to this show. I don't feel bad if you get spoiled.
So, and even then, it's a small spoiler saying the hero doesn't die at the end.
Yeah. Surprise! They want to make sequels.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So, I mean, but you again, it's this idea that's really, I think, being started to explored by a lot more people away from the Skywalker saga about people shunning the Jedi ways, shunning the Force, cutting themselves off to it, and then either finding it again or serving as a warning for people.
Well, it's a better story. I mean, look, one of the there were some parts of The Last Jedi that I enjoyed, and one of the parts was Mark Hamill talking about how, you know, at the height of their power, the Jedi let this big threat into their circle to destroy them. Like, they're not perfect, and I love that they brought that up because, like, you know, when they made Star Wars, it was very much good versus evil, and like, you know, things are more complicated today. And I've always loved that you know, they explored that in The Last Jedi of, like, you know, Luke Skywalker's not perfect. Surprise, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. and again, I've always said this: the Star Wars dark side stories are always better. Like the PG-13 up version of Star Wars is much more fun than the PG-13 down when you're an adult. Okay, when you're a kid, this is totally different. I fully admit that. Like, I was watching The Phantom Menace with my son. Like, he saw the pod racing scene, which I think I said, by the way, the CGI on that totally
Still
takes
great.
the test of time. Yeah, 20 years later.
Still great.
He loved it. And like, so it's never lost on me, like the youth side of this. By the way, side story for you, Ray, you'll love this. My son is going around telling people in the house, like, can I tell you a secret? And people are like, yeah, what is it? Anakin Skywalker turns into Darth Vader. Like, he's going around doing that, and it's really funny. He's like, and he's Luke Skywalker's dad. Like, he's just like so proud that he knows this. I'm very proud as a Star Wars parent because I did this right. You know what I mean? Like, he saw that reveal. Although it's funny because I'm having to explain. He's like, well, why did Anakin turn into Darth Vader? He's trying to save his wife. And they say things like, but why? You know, I was like, yeah, I have to show it to you. Who's his wife? Padme Amidala. You mean that lady with the funny hair? Yeah. That's his wife? Kind of. Yeah, son, kind of. They have a secret wedding on Naboo. Why? Because he doesn't like sand. So, like, I'm having to deal with that parenting situation right now. But anyway, yeah, look.
A lot of whys.
Rosario Dawson's she's a nerd. She's a good geek candidate. She's always been very friendly to the geek universe. And I think Star Wars is a perfect place for her to go. Speaking of Star Wars, the Star Trek thing I'm going to go into real quickly here. All right.
Yes. Some people say is a good story. Some people say is.
So yeah, I'm talking about Star Trek Picard, which is now just finished 9 of its 10 episode season. I'm loving it. Again, this is going to be spoiler free. I'm loving it. The story really makes sense to me. I really would love to talk to someone who doesn't like it to kind of get why. But the story really revolves around Picard and his relation to Commander Data. And how that is exposed in the current timeline. I think they've done a really good job. Sir Patrick Stewart is a really, really good actor, to the point at times he's such a good actor at times that I think it shows some of the other actors in the show to be weaker actors, if that's fair. Yes. And I don't think they are. I think it's just he's so good. At times they're like, I wouldn't have put these two people next to each other because it's like the majors and the minors. But I'm really enjoying the storyline. They've really kind of taken the core of the next generation. So the real quick thing is this: like the J.J. Abrams Star Treks and Star Trek Discovery take on more of an action approach to Star Trek, and Star Trek was never really about that in the beginning. I'm not against those storylines. They're very fun to watch, but that's not what Star Trek was about. So it's like, if you want a good action movie, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films are really good. But Star Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager are all about the human spirit and overcoming things in a utopian society. And this show has taken pretty much the stance of what happens when utopia becomes corrupted, right? And the utopias have to deal with that. And I love the character, the character building they've had to do with Jean-Luc Picard and how he's navigating this world. And he is very much imperfect now when he's not in that perfect state. And it's amazing to watch. But I think it's totally got it, the theme of Star Trek. I think they've done some things with the Borg that are you almost are sympathetic to them for the first time in the history of Star Trek. It's really interesting. So if you're a Next Generation fan, which is that is the most popular of all the Star Trek shows. I don't know if a lot of you know that. All right, 8 seasons. It was always heralded as a marvel of television. I mean, for those of you who lived through the 90s and late 80s, this was a big deal, that show. I think some of the younger audience probably didn't watch it that much, but that show really was a champion of its time. First off, to do 8 seasons is unbelievable to begin with. A lot of people don't realize the original Star Trek, I think, only did 4. It might have been 3 or 4.
Yeah, I want to say 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that show changed a lot about how we do television. This show has done a wonderful job. I am loving being reconnected with some of these Next Generation characters, and it's being done with so much respect. Number one, like every character that has returned, and I won't say who, is the character I remember, right? With a new challenge or a new time period, but it is them. Right? And then some of the new characters that have to echo old characters, which I can't explain further, have done a marvelous job with that. And so there's so much callback and so much fan service. It's like The Mandalorian in a lot of ways. It does a really good job of tapping into the Next Generation and the old times without sacrificing the modern story. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to the season finale. Again, if you're watching this, and Ray said he had some friends that don't like it, I really want to know why. I'd love to hear that. I'm not challenging you. Like, everybody has their own opinion. But I really want to know why someone wouldn't like this show. I think it's great. And I recommend any Star Trek fan. It will be much more. This is the only thing. It will be much more enjoyable if you know Star Trek. Like, if you just watch this without having watched The Next Generation, it's gonna be a little weird.
Right. Yeah.
But sorry, I monologued there for a minute. But I really have such a love for these characters. I mean, it was a big part of my youth. And when you're given that back in your mid-30s the right way, you appreciate it.
That's a good way of putting it. You know what? It's kind of like why I appreciate AEW wrestling right now.
Yeah,
because
that's
it feels like they've recaptured. No, I'm not joking.
I don't think you are. I'm saying it was a good segue. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very much like there are some characters who remind me very much of the Attitude Era with The Rock and Stone Cold. But you also have guys like Jericho who are still cutting amazing promos, even though now they're pushing 50 and still doing quality in-ring action.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it up because they pulled off an amazing show this week. As the WWE's been doing a bit more of a here's highlight reels of some of our best matches as we're trying to get through this, and doing some matches to keep the story going. But AEW did a full show because obviously they haven't been around for as long, so they don't have the ability to show off matches from 6 years ago.
Here's one from 6 weeks ago.
Right. They showed off. They pulled off a great show in front of an empty crowd in an empty arena, which you're starting to see is the norm now for wrestling. Matt Hardy has left WWE, has joined AEW. That was a big reveal this week on the show. But also in terms of wrestling news, which I think this is a mistake personally. Yeah. But and it shows even more why AEW has pulled ahead of WWE. WWE announced they are going to be doing WrestleMania weekend now.
Yeah.
From the Performance Center in front of an empty crowd, hosted by Gronk. Yes, Rob Gronkowski, formerly of the New England Patriots.
Gronk.
And it's going to be 2 days of wrestling. And I don't know why you just don't delay WrestleMania a little bit, considering you're going to be losing all the week of events. You're not doing the live show in Tampa. You're going to have all that crowd. Why not just delay? Because this is your Super Bowl. It's like doing the Super Bowl on a high school field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it feels
well,
like a questionable decision. Like, I want to get your thoughts on what they're doing with WrestleMania WWE.
There's a lot of thoughts I have on this. So one is that I'm sure some of their attitude is we can't lose traction to AEW right now. This is our biggest event. It's been planned every year. Second thing is that all the other major sports have had to cancel things, and the longer this goes, the more chance they're going to cancel the rest of the season, which is tough because basketball and the NHL are so close to finishing their season. In fact, I think the NHL season would be ending this week or next week had it continued. Yeah. Right.
First week of April.
They're in a unique position where they can continue their show. And they have to be saying to themselves that, our fans are at home and they need this right now, right? So, I think some of this is fan service. I think some of this is also ego in the sense of we can't cancel WrestleMania, right? Or we can't delay WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Because what happens to the storylines at that point? You know what I mean? So I think some of this is also just we're in a dark time right now. People need the distraction. All right? I think a lot of people are doing the right thing with that. It's a tough call all around, Ray. I mean, I know what you're saying about it being a weekend and it's on pay-per-view, and it's a tough call. There's no easy way out of this for any any sport or entertainment industry right now is in hell. Look what the XFL had to do. The XFL had to just cancel the season, their first season ever.
Yeah,
it's the same owner, right? So it's I think they also know that they need to make money during this time. WWE relies heavily on those people coming to those events. All right, so they probably need a pay-per-view event. That's also why UFC hasn't really stopped yet. You know what I mean? Right. I think that they make their money on their pay-per-views. It's not just the people. So it's I think this is also a money grab. Keep in mind, WWE just spent a lot of money on the XFL.
Yeah.
They probably are not exactly in the best financial situation right now. And AEW is playing it well. And I mean, I'll tell you this, just sidetracking. There have been some really funny things that have happened because of this, like watching Stone Cold. Like, if you guys give me a hell yeah, there's just no one in the crowd.
Nobody there.
Like, guys are, what? It was, so they're having some. Yeah, they're having some fun with it, but I don't see how they can cancel this. The other thing is they don't know how long it's going to be. There's also the venue, like, you know, where are you going to do it? You know what I mean? You're probably not going to get that venue. So I get it. It's one of those things. It's a necessary evil, and you know, I'm sure they discussed delaying it, but like, how long do you delay it? And again, what does that do to the storylines? You can't just have people, you know, maintain their storyline for 6, 7, 8 months. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you could. It just would be a throwback to '80s wrestling if you did that. You could stretch things out. It's just a question of how would the audience respond to it. I mean,
not well, and
probably not.
Again, I think they need the money too. I'm not going to lie to you. All right?
Yeah,
I think they need the money.
I mean, you think Vince McMahon? What do you think Vince McMahon's going to be like when he gets his $1,200 stimulus check?
Yeah.
He's not.
He's not getting one. But like, again, it's one of those things that they need the money, and they're going to put some entertainment on when people desperately need entertainment. And here's the thing: I don't think it's going to be just WrestleMania. I think there's going to be other things surrounding this we don't know about. Things that they can do, like, you know, this would be a good time to bring in some stuff with their app. You know, the WWE app is really good, like they might be able to do some not betting, but just. There might be some things they can do to give prizes. I don't know. I just, you know, innovate the way we do things. But it will be interesting, to say the least. It already has been interesting to see attendance. I can't say the word. No people at these things and them going on. In fact, I believe that when sports return, that's probably what we're looking at, is a lot of empty crowds before they start playing with crowds again.
Yeah, people start to be hesitant.
It's funny. So just to give you guys you know, because I don't know if people are thinking about this. But somebody posted this morning. It was like a video. It said everyone's worst nightmare, and it was just a crowd walking in like Disney World or something like that, and it gave me anxiety. Like a little. I was like, wow, that really is scary now. So I said, like, no one's talking about the mental aspect of what's going on. Like, we're being secluded here for months at a time. It's not like people are just gonna jump back outside, and be like, let's all be together again. Like, it's gonna take some time. Like, we're still gonna social distance when that ends. I guarantee it. Like, it's going to take time for people to get back to being like, oh, hi, neighbor. You know what I mean? So, I mean.
Fortunately, I'm like that anyway. I've been social distancing for 35 years.
35 years. Well, as someone like a year older than you, can I give you this advice?
Yeah.
I'm going to hug you next time I see you. I don't care if this is over or not. But don't touch me.
Okay. By the way, I just want to mention, I want to give a shout out again. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, is the best heel working in wrestling today. He has shades of The Rock and Triple H during their early days, and he is killing it in AEW. If you have not seen him work on AEW yet, folks, watch MGF. Watch especially his promo after he beat Cody Rhodes at the pay-per-view the night before. Absolutely brilliant. He comes out wearing a shirt that says "I pinned Cody." It is the best. He's the best heel working today, I think. Even better than, as great as Jericho is right now, and Jericho is at a whole new level, I think MJF is an up-and-coming star, and he is somebody to watch, I think, in wrestling.
Well, I've always said this. Heels run the business, not baby faces.
Yes.
Right? And, like, that's something that people like to talk about. But like, I always use Stone Cold and The Rock. They were never really baby face.
Yeah.
There was always a little bit of, like, yeah.
They were anti-heroes. And even Stone Cold admits it. He's admitted this. The worst thing he ever did was when he turned full heel towards the end of his career. Yeah. He thought with Triple H and Vince McMahon. He's like, should have just stayed.
Well, nobody understood it.
Audible and stunned McMahon every chance I had, and I didn't do it.
So here's the thing: if you look at the Attitude Era on, because wrestling is very different prior to the Attitude Era, but I can't think of one baby face that came out that is like bigger than in the anti-heroes or the heels. So The Rock is an anti-hero, kind of like he goes both ways. Stone Cold, Taker, Mankind. If you look at all the great Attitude Era wrestlers, none of them are really baby faces. There were times they were good and bad, right? The last baby face from the Attitude Era was Kurt Angle, and that didn't play over well either.
No, until he turned into kind of into a joke, which you always
what? What?
You give him credit though, because Angle was somebody who was always willing to do whatever to get a laugh or to get over, and he didn't mind being the heel. You suck.
Yeah.
You suck.
He embraced that. Yeah,
he leaned
totally
into
embraced
it,
that.
man. Like, and that's what smart guys do. Is that like if this is the
have
way the people are reacting, you gotta go with it.
Well,
like,
I'll tell you this. So for those of you who don't know, on my other channel, We Live Hockey, I play a character called WWE. All right, so when we had fantasy hockey, he was a heel. Like in every week, whether I won or lost in fantasy, and I did win a lot, but every week, the key to being a heel is to just you're never wrong. You can't lose. So I remember one time I came in like dead last in fantasy, and people were ripping on WWE, and I just came out. I said, "No, I am first under all. I am the number one loser." Like, it just doesn't matter. You just that's the key to being a heel is you're never wrong. You never lose.
Yeah.
It's so much fun when you lean into it. And I tell people because people like, it's not fair. I'm like, you got to be able to do that. And I would call people out, man. It was so fun. And then fantasy ended. I probably should do a message from WWE like at the virus that shall not be named. Like, you think you can stop me from being here in fantasy? Well, let me tell you something. I'll just come back. And I just channel, like, WWE is definitely The Rock and a bunch of other wrestlers combined. It's definitely not an original guy. I totally admit that. W. Lee.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Well, we've been talking about a lot of guys going on in different ways, in a lot of different places. That leads us into the biggest sports news of the week.
Oh, let me guess what this is. What could be the biggest sports news of the week? Did something happen in track and field?
No, we're talking NFL free agency.
NFL free agency.
And we are talking about a quarterback who changed teams. That's
Foles.
right. Colt McCoy is now a New York Giant, folks.
Foles going to the Bears.
Yes. Me and Lee both had one in the can. We were both ready to go as a swerve.
Nick Foles. Yeah.
Foles
did something else
Bears.
happen,
No.
Ray? Did something massive happen in the NFL that everyone was talking about?
No, it is very much a Joe Montana to the Chiefs moment as Tom Brady has signed a 2-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Who? Tom who?
The Jameis Winston experiment is officially over in Tampa Bay. He is a free agent. And honestly, in the NFC South now looks insane because Carolina also said they're done with Cam Newton. They signed Teddy Bridgewater to start away from New Orleans. Matt Ryan's still in Atlanta. Drew Brees signed a 2-year deal to stay with the Saints. You've got a lot of crazy quarterbacks going down there into the NFC South, and I don't know what to expect from any of them at this point.
Well, it's an interesting situation all around. One is that Tom Brady did a very interesting thing in doing this when he did because he knows. And again, okay, this is not an accusation in a negative way. I have to preface that, but like doing this when he did it is very fortunate for him because every eye in the world, the sports world, was on him all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Going to the Bucs. And then this is the question that I'm thinking now. Now that the Belichick-Brady love is over, right? Mm-hmm. Brady also going to a team that probably will not see the Patriots before he retires,
correct.
Right? Now we get to finally see how good they are individually, all right? Now, I've always been a proponent that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, but I believe Belichick is a better coach than he is a quarterback, all right? And I think that Matt Hoyer we'll see what happens with that, as he has signed to
Brian Hoyer.
That's what I said. Brian Hoyer is now sorry, I mixed two quarterbacks up in my head there. But no, Hoyer is the quarterback now of the New England Patriots, and Brady is in Tampa Bay. It's going to be very interesting. It's the jokes are huge about him retiring to Florida, right, which is where people go when they retire.
Yes.
But it's huge news, and it's such an unknown. But what that does is not only does it open up that division, but the Patriots division now all of a sudden looks totally different, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It is the end of an era, but we'll see where it goes.
I mean, that's the thing, right? In the AFC East, are the Bills now the default team to beat? Obviously, they were a wild card team last year. Josh Allen, they made a lot of moves. They got Stephon Diggs from Minnesota.
Yeah.
There's been talking about them signing somebody like Todd Gurley, who's now been released by the Rams to help at the running back position. Are the Bills the team to beat in the AFC East? And I think they probably are. Now, the other question is, now Brian Hoyer, folks, he's a journeyman quarterback, right? Brian Hoyer this is not a big deal that Brian Hoyer was signed by the Patriots, right? He's a journeyman quarterback.
It's happened before.
Yeah, he's a loser wherever he's gone. Is this the Patriots tanking to get a good draft pick next year to get one of the because next year is supposed to be a very good quarterback class.
Yeah.
To get possibly a good quarterback out of next year's draft and have Brian Hoyer go 6-10 this year.
Well, I mean, who else was available though?
Well, I mean, there still are. I mean, obviously, Foles is gone, Bridgewater's gone.
Yeah, like that's my thing. Like, who's available at all, right? Like,
do you sign Jameis Winston away from Tampa Bay? Like,
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, they're not the position the Patriots are now. They don't need to draft a quarterback right now. That's what I look at. So, and like you said, there's going to be a quarterback draft. So I don't think it's a thing of tanking. I mean, it's just kind of like when Tom Brady leaves, there's not going to be a quarterback that can replace him. There's not one.
Yeah. No.
So it doesn't matter.
Well, there was a guy named Jimmy Garoppolo, but they couldn't wait for Tom Brady to retire, so he went to San Francisco.
Yeah, I think that worked out for everybody though. But like what I'm saying is like it was unlikely they were going to have someone that could replace him. Like he might not have worked there, Garoppolo. We don't know that. He just happens to work with San Francisco. So
that's very true.
There's going to be a gap. It's like when Brodeur left the Devils, or Jeter left the Yankees. I mean, you can do every sport here.
Jeter didn't leave the Yankees.
He retired.
He didn't leave the Yankees.
God, retired from there. I know that. I meant left the team. Not jeez. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, no, because Brodeur went and played another season in St. Louis because he's a jackass.
I know what he did. You know what I meant. Oh my God. You just can't take the New York out of Ray. Or when Ewing left the Knicks. I said it. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's a gap to be filled there, and like it's going to be on the team. And here's the thing: the quarterback is not everything on a football team. All right, it's just not. It's very important, but it's not everything. So this is really going to see. Like, I'd be more interested what other moves. Like, let's look at their running game. They have one of the best defenses in the league.
Yes,
right?
They still have a tremendous defense.
Yeah,
yes.
So they just have to transition now to make something work. I think it's a huge hit, but let's keep in mind here, man. Brady's in his 40s. All right, like it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But like we're all going to be watching New England in a different light now. I can see that Jets and Dolphins fans licking their chops, and I'm here to tell you just to calm down.
No, like I said, I really do think Buffalo is the team to beat.
They are now.
Miami has they still don't have a quarterback. But they have signed, they have bolstered some of their rest of their spots. They got Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Ogbah. These are two good pass rushers. They have Jordan Howard, who's a very good running back. Eric Flowers, who's a waste of $30 million. I don't know why they signed him. Kyle Van Noy, who's a very solid linebacker. So the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins will be better this year than they were last year. I will say that much.
Sure.
And I think even the Jets will be better this year than they were last year. But overall, the Bills Mafia, as they call them, are very happy because this is their time now to really possibly put at least for a couple of years, I'd say at least a good 2 to 3 year period, really come and dominate this division.
Let's reverse this. If you're a Bucs fan, how do you feel about this?
If you're a Bucs fan, you're thrilled because
are you?
Yes, because the only reason.
I'm playing devil's advocate, by the way.
The only reason why you weren't a playoff team last year is because of your quarterback. Because Jameis Winston threw as many interceptions as he threw touchdowns.
Well,
the first 30-30 man in NFL history.
I'm thinking long term. Now, the good news is they didn't have to trade for Brady. He signed there, right? So, but I mean, how many years are you going to have? I mean, that was definitely part of the conversation they had with Brady when he was talking to them is how much longer do you want to play? And how old is Brady? 45 this year?
No, he's like 42, 43.
No, he was 43 because he was 40 in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
He wants to play till he's 45.
Sure. So you got 2 seasons out of the guy, right? So
that's what he signed
there's
for.
no way he signed there without the intention of winning. So there's other things going on there.
If the season starts on time in September, it'll start like a couple of weeks after he'll be 43 in August. There
you go. Okay, so they get 2 seasons out of him. Okay, essentially. Unless he feels like he can keep going, which really would. I'm actually not gonna knock the guy if he can keep playing past 45. That's actually incredible to his credit.
Yes.
He is pushing the limit of what a human being can do at the highest level, and I've always had respect for that in spite of anything else anybody feels about Tom Brady. It's amazing what he's doing, and the older I get, the more I understand that. All right?
Yeah.
But, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I was playing devil's advocate. I mean, you have to be excited. I mean, the Bucs didn't give up any future to have him there. Which is really the best case scenario. And if they gave up a first round pick and 5 other things, I'd be pissed if I was a Bucs fan. But
yes, agreed.
Not a team I was expecting. I mean, I knew they were kind of in the conversation a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. He's going to look very different in that jersey. There's going to be some growing pains. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens when Brady is under a different coach. I mean, or most likely he'll be coaching that team or the offense. I mean, I think that was part of the deal is that like you got to run my offense here.
But I'm sure Bruce Arians is very much a quarterback-friendly coach.
Yeah, for sure.
He coached guys like Roethlisberger. He coached Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
like he coached Carson.
That's one of the reasons he went there. That's definitely one of the reasons he went there.
Yes, no, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
If there's any juice left to squeeze out of the Tom Brady orange, Bruce Arians will know exactly what to do with it.
I will also say that I thought this move was handled very professionally by both the Patriots and Tom Brady. First off, allowing Brady to announce it himself, and then the Patriots immediately followed up with letters from Kraft and from Belichick thanking him for his time in New England. After years and years and years of the press just trying to suck a horrible story out of that storyline that they're at odds and they hate each other. I give the Patriots credit for, even if there was any of that, we don't know about it. We're never going to know about it. And an amicable split, to say the least. And then him going to the Bucs, where he probably will never play the Patriots, is also a really big deal, I think. I mean, that's a testament that, because the amount of knowledge Brady has on beating the Patriots, right, it's pretty extensive, right? Odds are they will not play each other ever. That's the way you want to see. I mean, some people want to see the kind of WWE storyline with this, but this is really gracious, and it'll be interesting for his legacy. And I can't imagine the Pats didn't want him back. I can't imagine that in the situation they're in.
Yeah, no, I think it's it's
that was his choice, I guess.
It's very much Montana to the Chiefs, which of course Brady idolized growing up. It is exactly that. And so I mean, speaking of the Giants will play the Bucs this year though if there's a season.
There will be a football season this year. It's just it might not be 17 games like they wanted.
Right. Yeah, no,
but we'll see.
Other interesting signings around the league. We've got
Eagles, man.
Your Eagles. I'll get to Eagles in a second.
I'm still going to do the bird dance.
A former Eagle, Nelson Aguilar, one of the worst receivers in the history of football.
Except for 1 year, Ray. 1 year he was really good.
That one very important year, he went to the Raiders. The Giants signed former Cowboys tackle Cam Fleming and former Packers linebacker Blake Martinez. The Martinez signing, I think, was actually a very good under-the-radar signing for a position of need for the Giants, although they still have a lot of holes. Well, and then your Eagles...
Slay.
Yeah, I mean, Rodney McLeod, the great safety. Jalen Mills, another great safety. Helping
McLeod,
your secondary
McLeod,
there.
Rodney
And, of
McLeod.
course, the big get was you traded with the Lions 2 picks, 3rd and a 5th round for Darius Slay, one of the better shutdown corners in the league. So this really helps. Probably your biggest area of need in my position, besides probably receiver, was probably your secondary, which was very much banged up last year. But what's interesting is the story that's come out now about how much Slay hated playing for Belichick disciple Matt Patricia in Detroit, and how he kind of pushed the Lions for this trade. Lee, as a coach, of both football and hockey, and of course many different things, of a life coach in general. What do you think?
Coach's coach,
a coach's coach. What do you think of when you hear this happening in Detroit, and of course also seeing how Detroit's played the past couple of years under Patricia? What are your thoughts on this? I want to get your thoughts.
Well, I think, look, here's the thing. I think for a player, when a player publicly comes out and rips a coach, there's a lot that goes into that. A lot of people think like we're not talking like last season. Like when a player does that, something's wrong, right? And again, like I wish I could tell people that coaches and players get along and it's all wonderful out there, but the truth is this: at that level and that much stakes, coaches will do whatever they have to win. And sometimes that means being a great players coach, and sometimes it means pushing these guys to the absolute edge of their sanity. And I think the quote that Slay said was he was one of the worst people he's ever met. Now, what's funny about this is an interesting time period where you saw this in the NHL last year with Mike Babcock, players ripping on their coaches. Players are not so afraid to stand up anymore. Some of it is childish and some of it is warranted, all right? Mm-hmm. But when a player comes out and says, you're just a horrible person, that's rough. That's really harsh. And he's telling the rest of the players, don't go play for this guy, all right? Yeah. I was actually reading this week about, it was, I won't name the coach or the sport, but it was players that were trying to get back into playing for a team, and they had phone calls with a coach asking, do you want me here, do you not want me here? And the coach just blatantly said, yeah, I want you here, and they lied. They never played, and the owner actually felt so bad for this player, he traded him away later in the season, right? So, like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and again, there are very much two types of coaches. There are players coaches. I'm a players coach. That really focus on team bonding and getting guys together and just really getting the best out of people. You know these coaches because everybody talks. Belichick is one of these guys where he's ruthless to his players in terms of cutting them, but he's not ruthless when you're on the team. And I've always admired that. But then you get these coaches that they will lie and cheat and do whatever they have to do to win. And the thing is, you might be at home saying, "Oh, that's wrong." Well, if you win, it's not. I mean, Mike Keenan, who is an NHL coach. He was so hated by his 94 Rangers that he had to leave the team after they won the cup. In fact, the players all say that he didn't even do it. It was them. It was Messier, right? Yeah. And now he lives in Russia, and he became a Russian citizen, which kind of makes sense. But, it takes a lot for someone to come out and rip their coach. I don't think he just did that to do it. And I also think that, a little bit of an optimist here, but he's coming to play for Peterson, who's clearly a player's coach. Like, that's well documented. Yeah. He felt comfortable enough to say that. So, again, look, it's a different time period when you look at, like, the players' associations versus the leagues and stuff. And, players have a voice, and they're not afraid to use it so much anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think there has to be a happy medium between the coaches and the players that they understand that and they want to abide by that. Like I'm a big proponent that is what is said in the room or in our little space, it stays here. That's part of the respect. It's part of the trust of a team. That's how things need to move forward in order to survive. And that clearly didn't exist in this locker room, all right? And I think that's going to hurt the Lions. I do. I think I think he did that. Again, it takes a lot, man. That's vindictive. I mean, you got to really think before you do something like that, right? Yeah. And again, after what happened at the beginning of last season with the Raiders, I mean, nobody wants to end up in that Antonio Brown situation, right? But he's crazy, right? This guy was just speaking his mind. He's on the Eagles, and I think he felt safe enough to say that. Although if I'm Doug Peterson, I'm gonna go up to him and say, look, you don't do anything like that here, okay? That was it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So again, that was a long answer to a short question, but very interesting. Real quick before you give your thoughts, Nelson Aguilar, I do want to say. One of the funniest things that happened last season was there was a fire in Philadelphia. Yes. I got to bring this up. There's a fire in Philadelphia, and this guy got his wife. He got his wife and kids. He carried them out, and this dude's house is burning in the background. And he goes, "I got him out. I carried him out. I didn't drop the ball." Unlike Aguilar, like the dude's house is burning down, and he just loves the Eagles so much he had to comment on it. But sorry. Back to the coaching thing. I'm excited to have Slay in Philadelphia. The Eagles are definitely still jumping. Like Eagles that haven't had a really concrete season since the Super Bowl year for lots of different reasons, whether it be Wentz getting hurt or the entire team getting hurt. So I admire the organization. They're still taking the strides. They still know they have a caliber team that can win the Super Bowl, although it's very hard to do. And they're doing what they need to do to make that happen. And that's the kind of thing I like to see. But, it's tough not to be excited to have him on your team right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's a big upgrade for you guys, for sure. I mean, I'm sure Peterson will definitely nip this in the bud. Whatever issues you had in Detroit, stay in Detroit. It's a whole new slate. Let's stay focused.
We're moving on together. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the NFC East. Again, the Giants have gotten a little better. The Eagles have gotten a lot better. The Redskins still look like a mess.
Not
Dallas.
the DC Defenders, though, Ray.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Redskins look horrible.
Dallas looks like they've gotten slightly worse. They let Byron Jones go to Miami, but they signed Clinton Dix.
It comes down to the kid. It comes down to the coach this year there, man. Everyone's eyes on the coaching staff there.
It's very interesting to see what happens with McCarthy there, because all the Cowboys have done is basically re-sign everybody who was a free agent, aside from let's see, they brought in Gerald McCoy from Tampa Bay at the defensive. He's a quality defensive tackle, and they brought in Clinton Dix. But you lose a guy like Byron Jones, and it kind of, I feel like the Cowboys are basically, in terms of talent, at the same level they were last year.
Do you think that if Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott don't have really good seasons this year, they're gone?
No. I think
they have underperformed. They have underperformed the last couple of years, in my opinion.
They have, but I think it's also been because of the offense. I think because of the offense. I think that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. Now, again, you have a new coach, you have another offensive-minded coach, but a coach who has, obviously led people to the promised land. He was the coach of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, was McCarthy. So, if Dak, I'll say this, if Dak has a worse year than last year, because he still had a good year last year, it just didn't look like it.
That's fair.
Because the team underperformed. If Dak regresses at all under McCarthy, or Zeke regresses at all, then I think they're gone, and I think that actually McCarthy's gone too, because I think that he's being brought in for a singular purpose, which is to get this offense to be scoring 35 points a game. And if they aren't doing that, then I think you're going to see the Cowboys absolutely blow up. Which I would hate to see that, but.
This is Dak's, what, 5th year in the league?
Yeah, I think
5th or 6th.
So.
Yeah, I think it's his 5th.
And the sad thing is they've placed the franchise tag on him. So he might actually want to go. He might like. Yeah. Supposedly, he and the Cowboys front office are so at odds with each other that he might not want to stay in Dallas.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens. But they gave Amari Cooper $100 million to stay as a receiver in there for Dak to throw to him. But if Dak goes, well, it'll be interesting to see who Cooper's catching balls from soon.
Yeah, it will. I'm interested to see where that team goes this year. Not that I want Dallas to win as an Eagles fan, but like it just seems like kind of like they keep tripping out of the starting gate. And like I don't feel like we've seen that team play to their potential. And again, both you and I hope they don't, but as a sports fan, we have to talk about it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's true. It's very, very true. And honestly, I'm expecting a lot of teams that have been the powerhouses for the past 10 years, honestly, to kind of regress a little bit. I think Dallas is going to have a worse year this year. I think the Packers are going to have a worse year this year.
Yeah, New England.
New England obviously is going to have a worse year this year. The little known thing, but he's been protecting Aaron Rodgers for a long time. Brian Bulaga went and signed with the Chargers, which I think is a big deal. They really haven't done anything to fix that hole in their offensive line now. Chris Harris went to the Chargers. I think the Chargers are actually going to primed to have a decent year, depending on what they do at quarterback, because obviously that's the other thing we almost forgot to say is Rivers went to the Colts for a 1-year deal. So that's going to be fascinating to see what happens there. I think this is going to be especially if it's a shortened season, but it's going to be a very weird football season this year. I think in terms of compared to what we've seen in previous years. I think obviously the Chiefs will still be good. I think the Giants will be slightly better, but again, we won 4 games last year, so that's not saying much. I think we'll win 6 this coming year. The Eagles are probably the team to beat in the East. I think in the North, expect the Bears to bounce back.
Yeah.
I think in the West, I think it's obviously, I think the Seahawks are probably still the team to beat there. I think the Rams are done. I think they shot their load. They're absolutely, they had their run, and now you see them, they're selling, like Gurley's gone. They're getting rid of guys left and right. I think that their window is closed or is closing. I think that you're going to see, and in the AFC, I think it's the Bills' time. I think Pittsburgh's window is closing. You don't know what you're going to get out of Roethlisberger when he comes back from his elbow injury.
He's got a huge beard now, by the way, like massive Amish beard.
Really weird. Looks really, really weird.
Does. He looks like he's from Trolls or something.
Yeah. So I mean, Baltimore. So is Baltimore still the team to beat in the North? In the West, the Chiefs are still the team, but I think you're going to get a wild card from the West, whether it's the Broncos or the Chargers, who've gotten a lot better. The Raiders are still going to be garbage. The Raiders are going to be the Raiders. They're going to win 6 games this year.
In Las Vegas.
And moving to Vegas, they're going to win 6 games. And then bet the under, folks. Bet the under. And then in the South, I think for the AFC, I mean, I guess the Titans. Because I don't think the Colts are going to be great with Rivers. I don't think the Jags are going to bounce back now with Gardner Minshew as the guy.
It's Gardner Minshew the third, Ray. The Minshew dynasty is alive.
Yes, I don't think he's going to lead the Jaguars anywhere. And I think the Titans with their new quarterback. Why am I blanking on his name?
Who? What team?
Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Tannehill, obviously.
I thought you said the Tigers. I'm like, who are the Tigers?
No, the Titans. Titans.
I hear you now. I was like, what team is the Tigers? The NFL.
Yeah, the Titans.
The Bengals? No. Ray knows his football. There was no way he would make that mistake, though.
The Titans. Tannehill, obviously, is their guy now. As Mariota goes to the Raiders to back up Carr. I think those are your teams. The Texans, I think, will be okay, but I don't think the Texans. I don't know. I think Tennessee is primed to have a better. I think Tennessee and Houston, like last year, will be the 2 teams that come out of the South. You'll have a wild card team from the South, a wild card team from the West in the AFC, and then that was Bills, Baltimore, Chiefs, and then flip flop between Tennessee and Houston. Those are your division winners. I think it's gonna be a very interesting, weird year for football.
Well, that's good. It needs a weird, interesting year with new villains rising and old ones going into the wayside, and everyone will be watching the Bucks this season, at least until they lose a bunch of games, if that happens. But yes, an interesting NFL season. Good for the NFL for keeping their hot stove hot during this time, giving us all the distraction we so desperately need.
Yes, that ended up turning into a much longer sports section than I think we anticipated.
Who cares?
So,
if you're still listening, we appreciate you. No,
yes, we hope you are enjoying our football talk here about a month before the draft. The draft is still happening.
30 minutes ago, we were talking about Jean-Luc Picard. Now we're talking about the NFL. I love this show.
Geeks who like sports. Yeah, no, it's
great.
We're a month away from the draft. By the way, the draft is still happening. It'll just be all telecommunicated and stuff.
Yeah, they don't need a crowd for that. In fact, it's probably going to be more enjoyable. The crowds at those things kill me.
I know, it's terrible, but so now it's time for our question of the week, our mashup.
Question of the week. It's time for the question of the week. I'm sorry, I was trying something new for this week.
Lee, what is our question of the week?
The question of the week is, we talked at the top of the episode about how the NASCAR drivers partook in playing a esports racing contest this past weekend. So Ray and I would like to know, we're asking you, what sports athletes would be great at playing their own sport digitally for you at home? I'm turning into that guy. In a world where athletes can play video games, you must choose what sport and athletes will partake in DEFCON 2020.
I'm going to say football players at Madden would be really, really good.
Oh, you'd lose brain cells with that one, buddy.
No, I think, it might not be great to watch, but
you would lose brain cells with that.
A lot of football players already enjoy playing Madden. Well, here's the thing. There's 2 kinds of football players I found during my time at ESPN. They either love to play Madden because they love the football that much they can't get enough of it, or they're like, please get Madden away from me. When I'm not playing football, I want nothing to do with it. Give me Halo, give me Call of Duty, give me Gears of War, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it also depends on the player, depends on which one of those 2 buckets they fall into.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Next week we'll ask the question if athletes from a sport could play another sport digitally. We'll do that one. You just made me think of that one. I think the obvious choice here is the NBA. I mean, here's the thing. Hockey players I love hockey players. They're humble. They're good people. Very boring, okay? It'd be very boring to listen to. I would not want to watch hockey players listen to playing NHL. It's just, I would have to turn it off. Yeah. NASCAR racers are, NASCAR racers. But if the Big Four, actually, you know what? I'm going to take it outside the Big Four. I bet you listening to soccer players play soccer would be pretty fun because they can't dive. Yeah. So that would be. I think the NBA is an obvious choice, man. They're animated. They're fun. LeBron James would be hilarious playing as himself.
Yeah,
I think that's
I can
the
see that.
obvious one to me. I mean, the NBA has some unbelievable characters. The NFL, I could not listen to those guys trash talk. Not to mention, the guys who really love football are going to be talking so much about stuff I don't understand. And then baseball, it's just like, again, it's kind of the hockey thing. It's just like, I can hear a baseball guy, oh, look there, I'll hit a single. There it is.
Unless it's somebody. Oh goodness, who's the pitcher who's been trashing the Astros left and right?
I know who you're talking about.
Kluber was it?
I don't know. I still wouldn't want to hear that, man. I don't think I could listen to anybody playing the Astros on digital baseball right now. Oh, look at that! I beamed him a 20th time in a row in the game. Altuve's still up to bat. I actually hit everyone in the lineup so I could get back to him to hit him again.
Nice.
Yeah, I think basketball is the obvious choice here. Although I would love to see soccer players. I used the European term there. Lived in England too long. I'd love to see soccer players play FIFA where they can't dive. That would be fun. Well, you got to dive there. You got to dive there, man. He touched your ear. No,
I will say the NHL before this all started, they had what was it, Torrey Krug Krug take on Tuukka Rask. They both were as the Bruins. Krug beat Rask.
But those are two animated guys. I'm saying if I had to pick a whole league, there's no way I'm picking the NHL.
That's fair.
It's just I've been around those athletes a lot. They're boring, man. They're farm kids who play hockey. At least most of these NBA guys, I mean, they're fun to watch.
All right, that's fair. Well,
NBA, right? It's the NBA. I'm right. You'll agree with me here. I'm right.
So that's our question of the week, folks. Comment below. Let us know
what you think. Well, let me do it in my voice. Now let us know what you think. Comment below with your answer on which team or which league would be the best to play with digital athletes and real athletes. Comment, let us know, and we'll see you next time. This is Lee Elias signing off.
Well, yeah. So there you go. I don't. There we go. I don't need to end the show right now. Lee just did it for us. No, that's our question.
In a world where Ray does not sign off of his own radio show,
well,
Lee
it's our
comes
radio
victorious.
show. I'm just saying.
It's my radio show. Now I'm the heel, and I can't be proven wrong because all it takes to do this voice is cadences up and down, over and over. The virus that shall not be named will not defeat us. Until next time, this is Lee and Ray on Geeks Who Like Sports.
Good night, everybody. See you next week.